Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Thank you very much for joining this informative session about the CaixaImpulse Innovation Program from La Caixa Foundation. Let me start with introducing my colleagues, Jorge Garcia, Jordi Vallès, and myself, Alex Esteban. So the three of us will be participating throughout the entire session, right? So I will start with the presentation. First of all, before going into the contents of the session, I would like to share with you some instructions about the session. First of all, please make sure that your microphone and camera are switched off for the entire presentation. Also, we would like this session to be very interactive. So for that reason, we'll have a presentation, we'll deliver this presentation, and after that, we'll have a section, this session, with questions and answers for any question that may have risen from the audience. To ask questions during this section of the session, please raise your hand. For that, you can click on the raise hand icon under reactions at the bottom of your screen using the platform. Also, it's very important for us that you make sure that especially your name and last name are displayed, because when it's your turn for asking a question, the moderator will call you by your name. When that happens, when you are called by your name, please connect your microphone and camera, and then you can proceed with your question. Also, please pay attention to the presentation and to the other questions so that we can avoid repeating answers. Also, please use the chat tool of the platform only for technical issues. So we encourage you to participate and interact directly with us, with your questions. The questions and answers section. Also, you have more questions, please, you can direct those questions to our email address for the program, which is displayed here on this slide at the bottom. And of course, you're invited also to visit our website, where you'll have all the information with all the kind of details. You'll have facts, manuals, the rules for participation, also templates for the application form. Without further ado, I will start with the contents of the session and the program. So our initiative to support innovation projects has been running since 2015. It's been structured in two different calls, validate and consolidate, as we will mention later in the presentation. So far, we have run 8 editions. We have given support to 173 projects. We have invested, La Caixa Foundation has invested 18 million euros in grants for those projects. And we have also invested a large amount of hours of training, mentoring, and expert advice as part of the accompaniment program that we offer in the program. As a result of all that, we have 39 projects out of those 173 that have incorporated spin-offs. And these spin-offs have been able to raise by themselves additional funding by the total amount of more than 34 million euros, because they have enough maturity and the skills to do it. We have achieved all that thanks to our initiative, which, as I was mentioning before, is divided in validate and consolidate. You can see both calls displayed here on this graph. Actually, they were run as independent competitive calls. And what we're showing here on this slide is the Death Valley. The Death Valley basically is what you can find here is on the left-hand side is all those academic projects that have access to public or competitive funding. On the right-hand side, you have companies or projects that have access to private funding because they have reached the market and they are getting revenues from commercializing their assets, or well, because they are receiving investments from private investors or companies. So for one academic project to travel from the left-hand side to the right-hand side, they have to go through many different stages and overcome many barriers. And the main intention of Validate and Consolidate was to build a bridge to give constant support, financial and non-financial, so that these projects could get the milestones that were proposed in their development or business plans. Well, Validate and Consolidate are no longer as such. So these two calls, and this is the big novelty of this year, have evolved into a one-only innovation program, what we call the CaixaImpulse Innovation Program. As you can see here, this innovation program has 3 stages, stage 1, 2, and 3. With this program, we will also provide more support and also for a longer period of time. We are not doing this by ourselves. I'm from La Caixa Foundation, so we have the collaboration of our colleagues from Caixa Capital Risk, which is the venture capital firm of Criteria from La Caixa Group. And we have also the support from the government of Portugal for the co-financing on some of the initiatives coming from Portuguese research centers. With this new program, what we want is to get an initiative that is more simple. So the program management is much easier for the project managers, but also for the beneficiaries of our grant and our support. The program, it's intended to be also more agile to facilitate the transition of the project among the different stages of the project development. It will be also more tailored, so we'll be able to have more flexibility for funding and support depending on the needs of the project. We'll provide more funding than on those previous calls, validate and consolidate. And we'll be able also with this program to provide some support or some non-financial support for a longer period of time. This is the structure of the new program. As you can see here, all the projects coming from research centers from Spain and Portugal will access the program through a single entry. So we'll have only one call open once a year for this single program. These projects, they will have to take a single path, regardless of the level of development, and they will have to undergo a 2-step evaluation process. In any case, we'll talk about this evaluation process with further detail later on in the presentation. But what is important here, and we want to highlight with this slide, is that the program is divided in these 3 stages, depending on the level of development of the project. And the applicants on the platform, on the application platform, they will have to select the specific stage they want to apply for. For example, a project applying for stage 1, it's a project that wants to generate a proof of concept validation. And they are exploring the strategies of intellectual property. Stage 2 is for a project with a validation of proof of concept. They have some kind of strategy of intellectual property, but they want to perform further validation, development, or even the prototype design for the technology that they are developing. Stage 3 is for more advanced projects. So we're talking about early stage projects in stage 1 to more mature projects in stage 3. In this case, it's for projects that are working on their regulatory roadmap. They are working on strategies for financial viability, and they're also working and gathering information to prepare a business model and figure out what's going to be the exploitation model for their assets once they reach the market. It's important to also highlight that you can access in one of these stages, depending on the scenario that you choose on the platform, but you can also progress and move on to the next stage. So for one project in stage 1, if the project achieves the milestones proposed in their valorization or development plan, the project can apply to move on to the next stage, to stage 2. And one project of stage 2 can also apply to move on to stage 3. We'll talk about that with more detail later, but to do that, we'll need the project to inform the assigned project manager from La Caixa Foundation, and they will have to prepare an application and defend that application in front of the evaluation committee of the program, who will decide if the project is entitled to move on to the next stage. The stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3, all of 3 stages, comprise each stage 2 years. So if one project goes from stage 1 through stage 3, they will have 6 years of support from La Caixa Foundation. And the financial support is also displayed here on this graph, on this figure. So for stage 1, we'll offer support for a maximum of 50,000 euros per project. On stage 2, a support of a maximum of 150,000 euros per project. And for stage 3, a support of 500,000 euros per project. If one project goes from stage 1 to stage 3, they will receive a total amount of 700,000 euros for the entire participation in the program. Besides this financial support, we'll offer also a very robust accompaniment program that will include this non-financial support with mentoring and consultancy, and also a training program that will be compulsory only for those projects and participants that are in stage 2. This program will be also open and optional for projects in stage 1 and stage 3. With regard to the funding, as I was mentioning before, so a project can end up receiving 700,000 euros for the entire participation in 3 stages. For stage 1 is 50,000 euros, for stage 2 a maximum of 150,000 euros, and for stage 3 a maximum of 500,000 euros. The payment schedule of each phase is very similar. So basically, when the beneficiary institution signs the project agreement with La Caixa Foundation, we'll deliver the first payment. That will be 40% of the total grant for stage 1 and 3, and 20% for stage 2. The rest of payments until the total amount of the grant, up to that amount, will be linked to the achievement of different milestones proposed in the development, the proposal, development plan, or the evaluation plan of the project. In the case of projects in stage 2, the second payment will be linked to the compulsory attendance to the training, and also the presentation and the submission of a valorization plan to the project managers, the innovation project managers of La Caixa Foundation. It's also important to highlight that if a project becomes a success case in the future, and the beneficiary institution starts receiving revenues from the exploitation of the asset, for example, there are like different KPIs that have to be achieved, and we consider indicators to activate this specific clause. Everything is showed on the rules of participation, but for example, one example would be that royalties, revenues coming from royalties, the assignment of a patent, or direct commercialization of the asset. In those cases, La Caixa Foundation will be entitled to ask for the reimbursement of the grant, only for those projects that have participated in stages 2 and 3. Also, if a project incorporates a company in the framework of the program, Caixa Capital Risk will be entitled to ask for 1% of the shares of the company that has been incorporated. Besides the financial support, we also offer this personalized non-financial support. So it includes, as we were mentioning before, a training program that will divide it between Madrid and Barcelona. It will include online sessions, but also face-to-face sessions with a maximum of 4 weeks spaced out throughout 3 or 4 months. The stage 2, as I was mentioning before, it will be mandatory for beneficiaries in this specific stage, and it will be optional for projects in stage 1 and stage 3. Each project in the program will be also assigned a mentor. So we have a pool of around 20 mentors from many different fields and with many different expertise. These mentors will be the ones that will be providing guidance to these projects, and also providing contacts and helps and feedback in some specific milestones to achieve for the project in their valorization or development plan proposed. Projects will have also access to a pool of more than 200 experts for consultancy meetings. In that case, we include experts such as experts in intellectual property, regulatory, medical writing, legal advice, or even key opinion leaders on some specific aspects of your technology or the experimental side of your project. We'll be organizing also networking activities. So we have a very large network of more than 1,000 members, including previous participants in all our calls, also experts, evaluators, and mentors. And you will be part of that networking that we are building, and of course will be invited also to participate in all the activities that will link to that specific network. I will stop here, and then I will leave the floor to my colleague, Jorge, who will explain more details about the selection and evaluation process. So, Jorge.
Thank you, Alex. So let's begin trying to answer to this question, that is, who can apply for this call? So this call is intended for non-profit institutions based in Portugal and in Spain, who are presenting us a biomedical asset that is going to be accelerated during this program. This applicant's institution or this program, this call, is perfectly compatible with other innovation calls and also compatible with our previous Caixa Research, CaixaImpulse validated call. But please be aware that projects awarded in the validated call only can apply to the stage 3 phase of this program. Unfortunately, those projects that were awarded in the consolidated call, in the Caixa Research or CaixaImpulse consolidated call, are not eligible in this call. Also, in this call, the applicant institution may present the proposal either in an individual manner or in a consortium with different members. The maximum number of members of consortium is 5. This is the applicant institution plus 4 partner institutions, 4 more partner institutions. And what I said before, and as Alex explained before, this call is intended for non-profit institutions, so spin-offs are excluded to enter in this call. However, those spin-offs that are incorporated, that are set up, that are established during the framework of this program, the framework of this CaixaImpulse Innovation Program, will be invited to continue the full track, or will be able to continue the full track of the call with us. So let's go to the next slide and try to figure out a little bit more, try to explain, take a closer look to the different institutions that are going to participate in this call. So please, next slide. Yeah. So imagine that you are a project leader that want to open and submit a proposal for our call. By the way, this project leader doesn't have to be necessarily the principal investigator of the research group. The only conditions to be a project leader in our call is basically that this project leader has to have a university degree, and that this project leader has to be linked in some way to the applicant institution. So in case that you want to present a proposal for this call, you have to make previously one decision. And this decision, if you want to apply here individually or in a consortium. So previous to make this decision, you have to know what conditions there are for a partner institution to be able to be part of this consortium. So the rules or the conditions that a partner institution have to comply with to be considered as a partner institution are the following. So all partner institutions in the consortiums has to be also non-for-profit, not-for-profit institution. All partner institutions has to execute part of the budget of the call. So in other words, some part of the budget has to be allocated to these partner institutions. So imagine that you have a collaborator that collaborates with you in your project, but this collaborator is not going to execute activities and is not going to use money from this CaixaImpulse Innovation Program to execute activities and to execute activities for this program. In this case, this collaborator will not be considered a partner. So if you have a partner, this partner has to have some money allocated in the budget. Also, the third condition for the partners is that this partner, this might be or might seem very obvious, but this partner should be a different institution from your institution, from the applicant institution. And by a different institution, we refer that it should have a different VAT number. So for example, if you have a collaborator that belongs to an institution that has the same VAT number that your applicant institution, this will not be considered a partner. This cannot be considered a partner. And the fourth condition that a partner institution has to comply with is that these institutions can be from all over the world. So it's not restricted to Spain and Portugal. You can make a consortium with institutions from all over the world. But there's a limitation here. And the limitation is that a maximum of 30% of the budget can go out of Spain and Portugal. So this means that the sum of the budget that is allocated in all institutions that are from out of Spain and Portugal as a maximum can be 30%. So let's see, or let's imagine that you are making this consortium. So one characteristic of our calls is that we need someone from these partner institutions to basically enter in our online system, register in our online system, and confirm the participation in the project. In this case, you will have to invite one investigator per partner institution to make this acceptance, to confirm the participation in the project. But only one investigator, this is one researcher per institution. So if you have a partner institution that is going to collaborate with you, you should invite only one person, only one researcher to represent this institution. And usually this researcher, this investigator, is the person that is going to be in charge of the activities that are going to be carried out in the applicant, in the partner institution. Okay. Regarding the COAs, another thing that a project leader should know is if the asset is owned solely by the applicant institution, by the institution of the project leader, or if this asset is co-owned. The property of this asset is shared with other institutions. So in this case, we say that this proposal has co-owners of the asset, because there are more than one institution that co-owns the asset. And this is what it is. So if you have co-owners of the asset, these co-owners of the asset can be for-profit and can be non-for-profit. The only limitation here is that the share of the property of the asset that can have for-profit institutions as a maximum is 50%. So if the asset is owned mostly by this for-profit institution, this project will not be eligible for this call. So in other words, the asset has to be mostly owned by non-for-profit institutions, okay? So in case that you have this co-owners of the asset, this co-owners of the asset institution has to be invited to take part in the proposal, has to be invited to confirm the participation in the proposal. And for this reason, you should invite an organization manager for each institution, for each co-owner of the asset institution. The organization manager is mainly a figure that we have in our platform that legally represents this institution in our online grant platforms. As many of institutions are already registered in our platform, you should know that many institutions has already appointed an organization manager in our platform. So in case that you have a co-owner of the asset, please email us in advance asking which person you should invite to join the proposal as co-owner of the asset. If the institution is not registered, we recommend that the person that takes on this role of organization manager should be a person from the pre-award offices, from the TTO office, or for a person that carries out some managerial work, not an investigator. And this is very important because this investigator or this person that is appointed as organization manager will represent the institution not only in this project, but will represent the whole institution for all projects that this institution is presenting for La Caixa Foundation. So basically, okay, so imagine that you have a consortium and imagine that your asset is co-owned by the different assets. So the question here is, what happens if the same institution is a partner because it's going to execute some activities and is going to execute part of the budget, and also if this partner institution is also a co-owner of the asset, and is a co-owner of the asset because it effectively co-owns the asset. So in this case, you have to invite this institution twice. You have to invite this institution first, an investigator from this institution as a partner, and second, you have to invite an organization manager as co-owner of the asset. As we know, this can be a little bit tricky. In fact, this is quite messy. We would strongly recommend that you go to the guidelines for submission that we have in our web page and go through all these details to figure out who is a partner, who is a co-owner of the asset, and who you should invite to effectively take part in our project. What we also really recommend is that 2% to submit a project, you will need the authorization from the organization manager of the applicant institution, so a person that legally represents your institution, but you also will need, if you have a consortium, the acceptance of all the investigators that are partners, and if you have if your asset is co-owned by different institutions, you will also need this acceptance of the different organization managers of the different COA institutions. So as you know that many people are intervening in this process, we really recommend inviting all these people in advance so you don't have late hour problems. So you go to the next slide. Yeah. So basically, the submission of proposals, as we said before, is done through our webpage, through the grants.lacaixa.org. And as Alex explained before, this will be an annual competitive call, meaning that this call will only be open once a year. And the novelty of this program is that when you are entering in this formulary, you are entering to apply for this call, you will have to decide which stage you want to present your project. So you either can present your project to the stage 1, you can present your project to the stage 2, or you can present your project to the stage 3. And as you can imagine, the formulary will be different. So the set of questions that we're going to ask will be different if you are presented to a stage 1, if you are presented to a stage 2, or if you are presented to a stage 3. So as you can imagine, the number of questions in stage 1 will be a few, in stage 2 will be a little more, will be a few more, and in stage 3 will be a few more than in stage 2. So we will go to the next slide. Here we have some guidelines because we know that this decision can be difficult to assign to which stage of the goal you want to apply. So we invite you to go through these guidelines that we have elaborated and that we have available in the guidelines for submission, and also you have available these guidelines when you enter in our application platform. As Alex said before, in stage 1, we are basically looking for projects that have developed an idea that might be transferred to the market. So in these cases, probably a proof of concept experiments has not been carried out yet, and intellectual property, for example, is still not clearly defined. In stage 2, the projects are a little more mature. So for example, in stage 2, we are looking for projects that maybe they have an initial proof of concept experiments, and also they have outlined in some way, or they have defined in some way, the intellectual property strategy. And in stage 3, we're looking for much more mature projects. So there are some projects that have already performed proof of concept in relevant models or in text environments. The intellectual property in this project should be clearly defined. And also in this project should have looked to some marketing issues. For example, the competitors, the market analysis, and have identified properly who is going to be the clients and the end users of the future product. So as we know, this decision can be difficult. We really encourage you to go through these guidelines and auto-evaluate your project before deciding if you want to apply to the stage 1, to the stage 2, or to the stage 3. So next. Now, regarding the selection of the project. So as we say before, there is going to be a single access, and the selection process is the classical selection process that we have been using before in our validated call. That is composed of 2 steps. The first steps will be a pre-selection, a remote pre-selection in which a maximum of 3 independent evaluators are going to evaluate your project. After this pre-selection, some project will be shortlisted and passed to the next step of the selection process. That will be a face-to-face interview that will be held in Barcelona. This interview, this committee will be composed by different experts. All experts, the pre-selection experts and the face-to-face interview experts, will be external to La Caixa Foundation. And these experts in the interview, in the face-to-face interview, will finally decide which projects are awarded and which projects are not awarded. What I am going to explain a little bit later is that to select the evaluators that are going to evaluate your project during the first step, during the pre-selection, the remote phase, we are going to use this year an artificial intelligence algorithm. So as you will see later, it is very important how you define your project so you can get a proper evaluator, and the better you define your project, the better evaluation and the better feedback you will receive. Also, as you can imagine, all projects will not compete together. So we are going to divide the project when they enter in the program into 6 different groups, because it will be unfair that a stage 1 project competes with a stage 3 project, because they are very different and the level of maturity is very different. So basically what we are going to do is split the projects into 6 different groups and elaborate 6 different rankings depending on 2 attributes: the stage you are presenting to, and also the business area that your project is entitled. So for example, this way, we are going to have 1 ranking for a stage 1 therapeutics project, we're going to have another ranking for a stage 2 therapeutics project, and we are going to have another ranking for a stage 3 therapeutics project. On the same trend, we are going to have 1 ranking for a stage 1 medical devices, diagnostics, and digital health project, and a stage 2 ranking for the medical device, diagnostic, and digital health project, and so on and so forth. Regarding the selection criteria that we are going to use to evaluate this project, in all stages, we are going to use these 5 criteria. The first is the asset, basically the quality of the science and the novelty of the asset that you are presenting to us. So the quality of the science that is beyond the development of this asset. Also, the second is the need. So if there is real and unmet clinical need that is going to be addressed by your asset. The third reason is the team. The criteria is the team, is the suitability to develop the project proposed of this team, and also the complementarity and the profile of the team members and the profile of the project leader. Fourth will be the implementation. So basically the plan that you are presenting to us and all the activities, if these activities are realistic, if these activities that you are presenting to us can be implemented, if the budget is well allocated. And also the business case and the social impact. This means the strategy, the needs, and the expected outcomes that your project is going to have. As you may imagine, the weights of these different criteria will be very different depending on if your project is a stage 1 project or a stage 3 project. So basically in a stage 1 project, we are going to look basically to the need and to the asset, to the quality of the science that you are presenting to us. While in a stage 3 project, we are going to give more importance to the implementation and the business case. If you want to see exactly this selection criteria, the weights of each of the blocks in the selection criteria that we are going to use for each phase, you can go for the guidelines of evaluators that we have also available at our webpage. So you go to the next slide. So as I explained before, and this is key for us, the assignment of the remote evaluators in this call is going to be done automatically with an artificial intelligence algorithm. And this algorithm to assign the evaluators is going to take into account 2 things. First, the business area, and here in the business area you have to choose one. So your project is either a therapeutics project, is either a medical devices project, is either a diagnostic project, or is either a digital health project. So you have to choose one out of these 4. And the second thing that the algorithm is going to take into account is the scientific areas and sub-areas that are relevant to your project. So here, we want you to make the effort to read the scientific areas and sub-areas and mark every scientific area which is key, which is relevant, which is defining your project. Because the more scientific area that are defining your project that you mark, the better assignment of evaluators you will have and the better feedback you will receive. Here, we are not saying that you have to mark every scientific and area and sub-area that are maybe some remotely related to your project. We are saying that you have to tick all these scientific areas and sub-areas that are key, that are important, that are defining, really defining your project. So next slide. Just to finish, this is simply an overview of the calendar for this call. So as you know, we are currently open for submissions. The deadline for receiving submissions will be on the 30th of March at 2 p.m. Central European Time. After this deadline for submission, we will begin with a pre-selection process. Well, this means with a remote evaluation. So we hope that in June, we will be able to communicate this pre-selected project, the project that are going to pass to the second step of the evaluation process, which is the interview. The interview will be held face-to-face in Barcelona during the days 4 and 5 of July. And we hope that in mid-July or at the end of July, we are going to be able to communicate which projects are going to be awarded in this call. After summer in September, we hope that all activities of the programs will kick off. So the mentoring program, the expert advice program, and also the training program. And also we hope that in September, October, we will be able to sign the grant agreement with those institutions, those applicant institutions that are going to be awarded. So next, and this is basically it. Here we have our contact email. So please email us for any doubt that you may have. And I think that now we can go directly to the Q&A session. So I give the floor to my fellow Jordi Vallès.
Oh, thank you, Jorge. First of all, we have to apologize for some technical issues we have had. So some of your colleagues haven't been able to enter to this session. So please, if it's in your hand, let them know that this session will be available online. Yeah, they can find the link to the YouTube session in our website, CaixaImpulse.org. And also they can write any question they have through email to us. So said that, we have a first question from Carlos Amor. If you can please open your video and micro and talk. Carlos Amor, can you please open the cam? Or at least the microphone. Carlos, are you there? So well, we will move to Ivonne Martins.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for the clarifications. I would like to know if the same PL, project leader, can submit two different projects, one in stage 1 and the other in stage 2.
Right. In that case, project leaders for one edition, regardless of the stage that they are applying for, they can apply only once, being project leader, that specific project. What we accept, and it's eligible, is that, for example, a researcher is project leader of one application, and it's part of a consortium, which I'm a consortium member in another application. That's totally eligible. But for edition, each year they can apply as project leader only to one, leading one application.
Okay, and regarding the partners, from the same university, we have different research centers. So if two different research centers, but from the same university, are considered two different partners?
So they have to be like different institutions to be considered as partners. If that's not possible because of the internal policy of your institution, then they can be added as collaborators in the grant, and then the beneficiary institution will be the one entitled to distribute the funds among them.
But if
otherwise,
they have different VAT numbers,
then they can be added as defined institutions, as partners of the consortium that you are presenting your application.
Okay, but they will have the same person that will be acting as a manager to to be responding by the university?
That's not a problem at all.
Okay.
That's not a problem at all. So one role is the organization manager of the beneficiary of the applicant institution, and the other role that we have, which is different from the previous one, is the role of someone representing an institution that is a partner in a consortium.
Okay.
So that's not incompatible.
Thank you so much. That's all.
You're welcome.
Okay. So thank you, Yvonne. So we have next question from Estrella Rubio, please, if you can.
Hello, thank you for your speech. I have two questions. The first one is about the change of stage from 1 to 2 and so on. Sorry if I didn't understand well, but for instance, I applied for the first stage and I finished my project. I get funding and I finished my project. And in which moment I changed to the second stage? When I finish the project and I present and I apply for the second stage when the call of the Caixa is published, or is another moment? I don't know if I am in my question.
Yes, Estrella, thank you.
Yeah. No, please.
Thank you for your question. I'm sorry for interrupting you. So basically, this first question, yes, this upgrading method. So if you are awarded a stage 1 project, for example, you will be able to ask for this upgrade from the very first midterm meeting that we had with you. So you don't have to wait until the project is finished. Okay. So once we have a midterm meeting with you, that it will be, during the first year. So after this time, you will be able to submit your application to upgrade to the stage 2. And regarding the time will be the same as the next call of the CaixaImpulse Innovation. So during the time of the CaixaImpulse Innovation 2024, you will be able to make this submit. So if you comply with these two requirements, so first, you are awarded and you have made with us a midterm meeting, and also if the call is open, at that time, you will be able to ask for an upgrade to the stage 2, in this case.
Okay, thank you very much. And my second question is about the spin-off, because we have a principal investigator that wants to apply for this call. Mm-hmm. And she works in a non-profit organization, but she also co-owns a spin-off that it is not related with the topic of the project that we want to present. Is there any problem with that, or?
No, there is no problem. So the problem here is if the asset that you are presenting us to accelerate in the project, in the program, is already transferred to a spin-off company. So if the asset is not transferred, if the asset is, let's say, in the hands of the non-for-profit institution, there is no problem at all that this principal investigator has the two roles, one role in the non-for-profit and one role in the spin-off.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Estrella. So now it's time for Piotr. Hi, Piotr. Can you open your cam?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Barely, yeah.
Okay, sorry. So I have a question because I'm a beneficiary of the Caixa Validate program, which ends up in this year. Can I apply for this year call, or I have to wait for the 2024?
So you're eligible to apply. You can apply. So what we ask for is that just that you have your valorization plan approved by the program office. It is something I think that you already have. And then if you are selected to participate to get into the new program and you haven't finished your previous project, but we will give you like a period of time of 6 months so that you can close the previous project. So you have some period of time so that quietly you can close everything, and then after that we'll sign the agreement with your institution and then you can start a new program.
Great, that's my only question. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. So now we have Antoni. Thank you.
Hi, how are you doing this morning? So my question was about what the project has to be focusing to. You talk about health, but it can be anything about health. Let's say, for example, robotics applied to health, or it has to be something about medical care for health, or exactly if it's a wide range of things or it's just a concrete thing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Antoni, for your question. Yes, we have an open concept of health. So I would say that mostly every asset that has some application, some impact on human health will be eligible. But just to be sure, I would recommend you to go to our guidelines for submission. There, you will see a different thematics that you can apply for. So if you see that your asset really fits in one of these sub-thematics that you are entitled to apply for, clearly you are going to be eligible for the call. If in the example that you are putting up, if this is something robotic that really is going to impact in the healthcare, it might be eligible for the call.
Right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So next question is from Peter Stinen.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, thank you for the presentation. My question is, for example, if you have doubts about deciding about stage 1 or stage 2 projects, for example, and let's say we apply with stage 2 and the reviewers judge that it's stage 1, is it then rejected, or is there any chance that you can adapt it?
Well, I think Alex is frozen. So yes, I gonna go this. In the as I said before, there are 2 steps in the selection process. So the pre-selection process and the panel. Okay. So during the pre-selection, the remote evaluation, we don't have this mechanism. So you apply for one stage, and we don't have this mechanism. We won't be able to change you from a stage 2 to a stage 1 to a stage 3. So what we are going to tell evaluators is that these evaluators should evaluate the quality of your project, but also if this project is really fitting in the stage that you are applying for. Then, if your project goes to the panel, to the second step, to the face-to-face interview, in this case, in a very extraordinary manner, we would be able to say to you, okay, your project is good, you have applied to a stage 2, but all members in the panel are thinking that it should be a stage 1. It might happen, but it's going to be very rare. So the short answer is we don't have like a general mechanism to make these changes between stages, but in the panel, it might be possible that your project can be changed.
Yeah. So basically your recommendation is, if you really, because sometimes projects can be or just in stage 1 or maybe in stage 2, but you recommend to choose them for the safe side.
We are not delivering a general recommendation because all projects are different, and this is a question that we are taking a lot. So there are some people having this doubt. What we recommend is reading this auto-evaluation and also going to the formulary, to the set of questions, because, for example, if you go to the formulary and you see some questions that you cannot answer, maybe it is because your project is from a previous stage. So if you do this exercise, you read the guidelines and also you go to the formulary, I think that you can safely decide which stage of your project is better for this. But we cannot deliver a general recommendation because every project is different.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So next question, Mary Chevalier.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
perfectly.
Yes, thank you very much for the presentation. It was very useful. This is a rather specific question. It's not necessarily our case, but I would like to know what happens if the project is still eligible, if it's not a company by the application date, but it becomes a company by the communication of the beneficiary's date.
So if the company is incorporated at that specific point, it's important that the asset is not transferred yet, because this policy applies from the very moment that we sign the grant agreement or the project agreement with your institution. So
again, it cannot be transferred by the communication of beneficiary. Okay.
So in an ideal situation for the eligibility side of the program, it would be that the incorporation was delayed until the project is in the program. But if that's not possible, but the company is incorporated before that, then we need that the asset is not transferred to the company until the moment that we sign the agreement with your non-profit institution. If that happens before the signing of the document, then the project wouldn't be accepted into the program.
Perfect. Very clear. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So Laura Redondo, please.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I have a question regarding the mentoring program. You mentioned the part of it's going to be in person in Madrid and Barcelona. Are the trips and accommodation for those days covered extra to the let's say grant money?
Yeah. Specifically, we are going to have a part of the budget that, apart from the requested budget that you are asking us, we are going to give an extra 1,000 euros in stage 1, 4,000 euros in stage 2, and 1,000 euros in stage 3, specifically for this kind of trips and accommodation that you may require doing all the activities related to the program. So you are going to request us, the La Caixa Foundation, a budget, and we are going to give you an extra allowance, an extra budget to spend in this accommodation and travel services.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Please remember to open your cam if it's possible. We also would like to know you. Thank you. So we have the next question from Marcin.
Hello, hope you can hear me. I have three questions. First is a bit complicated, that we have the asset is owned by University of Seville and Servicio Andaluz de Salud at 50%. And we had like a CaixaImpulse validates some time ago. Now I have moved to another institution, which is in Bioaraba, which is in País Vasco. The point is that we thought that we can mount a consortium for this call. The question I have is if I can be somehow project leader in that by some sort of convenio agreement between the Bioaraba and, for example, Servicio Andaluz de Salud. That's my first question. Then I have two more. Would you like to answer it now?
Yes. With regard to your question, thank you very much for your doubt and for sharing your doubt. So the beneficiary institution, the applicant institution, they have to have some ownership on the asset. So in that case, you would be able to submit your application in the framework of the University of Seville or the other co-owner of the asset. If you have moved to another institution that is no co-owner of the asset, then that institution can be a member of a consortium that you can build with the other institutions.
That's okay.
They can be a member, a partner of that consortium, but that institution, that new institution that you just joined, cannot be the beneficial institution on your application.
That's okay. That's fine. The point is of being project leader. You call it in the guidance as linked to owner of the asset. How do you understand this?
So it's not a contractual link. We don't need you to be hired by the beneficiary applicant institution, so that's not a problem at all. But we would need at least some kind of approval from your beneficiary institution, as they approve that you are the project leader of that application that you are applying with to access the program. If we have that approval, that's the kind of link that we need. We don't need anything else.
Now, did you also told, if I understood well, or maybe I missed something, that there should be investigators from each of the owners of the asset. So I probably would, if I missed it, that from SAS there will probably be somebody, but maybe not from the university at all. They will allow to participate. Is it okay?
It's okay. It's not necessary. So you don't need to have investigators from the other institutions that are co-owners of the asset. That's not compulsory for applying to this call. What we we need in your application, if you are applying with a consortium, is that the partners of that consortium are led by an investigator or a researcher who will receive funding from the grant also to develop some activities from your development plan. But only partners. Co-owners of the asset can be included in the proposal as co-owner of the asset, but they don't need to be led by any researcher, and they don't need to get funding from the grant if it's not the case, if it doesn't apply.
That's perfect. I like it. Now, second question is simple. How many phase 3 projects you plan to fund more or less?
How many, sorry? How many projects?
How many stage 3 projects are you going to support?
So per year, we're planning about between 3 and 5 projects.
Okay.
So more or less, an estimated number is 10 projects for phase 1, 10 projects for phase 2, and then for phase 3, around 3 to 5 projects, approximately.
So the last question is about the spin-off. I understood that the spin-off can be created, but then you told that the transfer, which in this case would be exclusive license from the owners, can only be transferred when the grant agreement is signed, right? So maybe October or something like that. That's okay, but you also put that you want to have 1% in a spin-off. That's like a second stage. How this can be solved with an existing spin-off?
The 1% of the spin-off is the spin-off has been already incorporated, and you have participated in Validate previously. Then
no, it's not yet incorporated. The point is it's maybe like in the time until October, which is that's
when you have the exact date when it's going to be incorporated, you need to let us know in advance. So a few months in advance or a few weeks in advance would be great for us, so we can include our colleagues from Caixa Capital Risk, who are the ones entitled to ask for that 1% of shares of your company, and then they will give you instructions on how to do it. If it's before you prepare and you seal the shareholder agreement, that's perfect, because it's when they are incorporated.
Sorry, there is noise in the background. I don't hear some cups or something. Can you repeat the last answer?
So we need you to let us know with some time in advance. So if it's a few weeks or a couple of months, that's the best situation, the best scenario for us. The ideal situation is before you seal the shareholders agreement, so that the Caixa Capital Risk, our colleagues who will be entitled to ask for that 1% of shares, will be also incorporated, and they will give you further instructions. And that's all you need to do. So just let us know with time in advance, and we'll give you like more detailed instructions, and Caixa Capital Risk will give you exactly the procedure to take that 1% from the shares.
So it can be done like between the end of March and October in the meantime, or this is only after the October sign?
If you are certain that you are incorporating the company on those specific dates, you can move this, when you can let us know and move this procedure as soon as possible. So the more time you give us, the more time we'll have to do everything smoothly.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so thank you, Marcin. We would really appreciate it if you have concise questions, and if you have really specific questions for your proposal or project, you can write us, because there's at least 10 people having questions, and we can run out of time. Thank you so much. Next question, Marion Esquerdo.
Hello, good morning, and thank you very much for the presentation, as always. My question is very precise and short. In previous calls, the applicant institution was assuming the debt for the whole project. And I wanted to know if this has changed for this call, or how will this work?
Yeah, thank you, Mariona, for your question. Yes, basically we work and we sign the grant agreement with the applicant institution, with the future beneficiary. So this future beneficiary is going to receive all the funds, let's say, and this, in case there is partners, this applicant institution is going to distribute these funds. But regarding the returning of the funds, that maybe is what you are asking us with the word debt. So if you are asking for this returning of the funds, the applicant institution, the beneficiary institution, will be the institution entitled to return this fund. So we always, at La Caixa Foundation, we always work directly with the applicant institution, with the beneficiary. Okay?
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. So next question, Carlota Pages.
Yeah, hi. Thanks
Hi
for
there.
the presentation. My question is very brief. If another institution is a co-owner but will not effectively work in the project, we need to invite them as co-owner.
In that case, it's compulsory that you include all the co-owners in your application, and they need to approve the proposal that you're presenting. They don't need to be directly involved in the activities that you're presenting in your development plan, but we really need, it's a legal issue, and we really need that they give their approval for the asset to get into the program and get our support.
Okay, great. And then regarding the spin-off, I know you may have answered to this many times, but if a project has a spin-off incorporated, but the university is submitting the proposal, is the project still eligible?
If the asset that you're working on has not been transferred through a license agreement to the spin-off, then it's eligible. If the asset, for example, is transferred later on during the execution of the program, then we'll still be able to give our support to the nonprofit institution, but only for activities performed in the framework of the nonprofit institution. Okay, so we cannot pay, for example, for salaries or specific activities in the framework of the company. But if it's not been transferred before signing the project agreement, it's totally eligible. That's not a problem.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, thank you. So next one is Tortola.
Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for the opportunity. So my questions, I have two, and maybe I can quickly ask them and then you answer. So one question is, in prior occasions, so if I recall correctly, there was a strong recommendation that the project leader was not the PI because of the training aspects and compromises. So that this means, I assume that probably for stage one projects, this is not an issue. It's still, I mean, the question is it an issue for later projects, or still, I mean, API can be applicant in stage 1, 2, and 3, as long as in the compulsory once they commit to training?
Yeah, thank you for your question. Yes, as you say, PIs can be project leaders in a stage 1, a stage 2, and a stage 3. Okay. The only requirement is that in a stage 2, the training is compulsory. So if the PI is able to commit with the attendance to this training, this is perfect for us. Invalidate, as in our previous call, as the training was compulsory, we will also explaining that other profiles different from the project leader might be interesting because this makes easier for them to attend to the training. But for sure, PIs can be the project leaders.
And it could be that, sorry, Jorge, excuse me. It could be that in stage 1, it's the PI, and if it moves, then maybe we have also the time to find the project leader that would replace the PI more in terms of training and pushing the project towards, for example, spinning off or whatever, no?
We will consider this to be the same project, but if you ask for an upgrade and you want to change the project leader, for example, you are in stage 1 and you are requesting an upgrade to a stage 2 and you want to change the project leader, we are very flexible. Our people that is working with us know this. So if you want to change a project leader at any time in the project, for sure we can discuss it, and many times we accept this change of project leader.
Okay. And a quick one, so sorry, it was 3 in the end. So we're speaking for profit all the time about spin-offs. Could a for-profit be eventually a future licensee or company, which is not a spin-off, that maybe in the future could create with the institution a company? And maybe now they are just helping with the project and defining, but so is that also an opportunity, as long as the asset remains in the institution for the time being, of course?
Yeah, if the asset remains in the institution, what we are not prejudging is if you are going to incorporate a spin-off, or in the future you plan to license it out to a big pharma company or whatever. We are not entering in this. If you are referring if we can accept a company, not a spin-off, a company, a big pharma company, for example, as linked third party, and this company will be able to execute part of the budget of the call, this is not possible. This figure of linked third party will only be possible for the spin-offs that are generated, that are created during the program, during this program, not validate, not consolidate during the CaixaImpulse Innovation Program, this new program. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So next question for Daniela Rodriguez. Hey there. We cannot hear you. Can you? Hi there. No, we cannot hear you. Can you please write it down? Hi? No, we cannot hear you. Are you in the chat? If you can write it down, we can read your question afterwards. Okay, thank you. So we just moved to Teresa Lloret.
Hello, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Yeah, thank you very much for your presentation. I have two small questions. One is just to clarify and confirm, can a project that has already applied to previous CaixaImpulse calls but was not granted, can it apply it again?
Yes, it's totally eligible. There's not a limitation. Even if, unfortunately, you apply for the first time and you don't get into this addition, you can apply as many times as you need. That's not a restriction.
Thank you. And second question, regardless of the stage, we have already talked about the spin-off, sorry, but I have not it clear. We have a spin-off that is already created, not in a frame of a CaixaImpulse, but in outside of CaixaImpulse. Can a co-applicant institutions be a spin-off of the applicant institution? And a spin-off that is already created and is a spin-off of our institution. Can it apply with us?
If it's a spin-off of your institution and the asset is still in the framework of the research institution, it's not being transferred for the company to keep the developing activities, then it's eligible. But the company is not eligible to be a part of the consortium that you may apply with. For example, it cannot be a partner of that consortium. We cannot get funds from the grant.
Okay.
All the grants, all the activities have to go through directly.
So the spin-off cannot be granted, cannot be awarded with this money.
No, the spin-off cannot be awarded unless it's a spin-off established and incorporated in the framework of the program, as Jorge was saying before. If it's already incorporated, it's not eligible.
Okay.
But the company can be incorporated as a collaborating entity, as in the list of collaborators, and if it's properly justified, some activities can be outsourced to a company.
Okay.
And you can contract external services to that spin-off if it's very well justified and it's crucial for the development of the project. But they cannot be members of the proposal or receive directly money from the grant.
Okay, and then the 1% that you want to recover, to recover the money, to which institution do we have to apply this 1%? To the spin-off with whom I am participating, or? So
it's 1% of the shares of the companies that are considered linked parties. So companies that are incorporated in the framework of the program. It's only 1% of those companies. The reimbursement of the grant, it's not a loan, so we don't apply interest. It's just at the maximum amount that we have provided the project with, so 50,000 euros or 50,000 euros. And it applies, as we were mentioning before, specifically on the non-profit institution, the beneficiary institution. So if, for example, the project in the long term becomes a success case, and these non-profit institutions, the beneficiary institution of the program, start receiving revenues from the exploitation of that asset, or from revenues, or from royalties, then we'll be entitled to ask for that return. The pace is very smooth, so we are not asking for the entire amount. So I think it's a return of 5% of the total revenues per year, unless there's an assignment or there's a sale of shares. Then it's a different, but otherwise it's a 5%. That's a piece of return.
Thank you very much. Everything clear. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I will read the questions from Daniel that previously was unable to do it because of the microphone. So the first one is 2 years a maximum for the duration, or is it possible to present 12-month proposal? Is there any disadvantage?
Yes, thank you, Daniel, for this first question. So yes, 2 years is a maximum duration for a stage. So 2 years for stage 1, 2 years for stage 2, and 2 years for stage 3 as a maximum. But you for sure can present activities only for 12 months, 18 months, or 20 months, so as you want. If there is a disadvantage, so this is difficult to say. As we were saying before, all evaluators are external to the Caixa Foundation. So maybe if you justify well that your project, for example, it is better to develop this project in 12 months because then you want to apply to other call-ups, you want to do this upgrade next year, maybe it could work, and maybe some evaluators will evaluate this well. But we can give an answer because, you know, we have different evaluators, and it all depends on how well you justify these timings that you are presenting to us.
Exactly, Jorge. So probably we can say that what's important is that the time that you put in your proposal fits with the activities that you are describing. Question 2 is what is there a maximum number of independent projects that can be presented from the same institution? So Jorge or Alex?
No, there is not a limit. So we require that there's only one project leader with one application leading one proposal, but there's not a limit per institution. An institution can apply with as many as they need to.
And there's a third question. Is it possible to transfer the asset after the project is accepted? But say, I guess that the budget remains in the institution. Is it right? So.
Yes, this is like this. You can be eligible if the asset is still not transferred, and but what is for sure is that the budget should remain in the non-for-profit institution.
Okay, so now we will move to Guillem Navarra, please.
Yes, thanks for the presentation. I have a very concise question that I think you have not answered yet. You said that the applicant institution needs to own or co-own the majority of the asset. But what if the asset is 50-50 between two institutions? Can we apply?
Yes, you can, because actually we just need that institution has some co-ownership, but there's not a minimum.
Okay.
Even if it's 1%, that project is eligible. What we need is that at least it has some co-ownership of that specific asset that you're presenting in the program. There's a restriction that, for example, if that asset is co-owned by different entities, non-profit and for-profit, we need that the percentage of the non-profit institutions is at least more than 50% of the asset. Okay, compared to the ownership of the for-profit institutions. If that's the case, even if your beneficiary institution or applicant institution, it's only 1% of ownership, that's enough for us. The project will be eligible.
And if it's the second case you said, that the co-owner is between a profit and a non-profit, and it's half 50-50, in that case?
We need more than 50%.
Okay.
At least 50.01%.
Okay.
That's a legal requirement that we have in the application.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
So I will use, there's a question just on this direction. In this case, a specific case, is it compulsory that the spin-off enters as co-owner, but not as collaborator? Is a question in this specific case. There's another question for another participant.
So this specific case, meaning that if the spin-off is a co-owner of the asset, for sure you have to declare that all the institutions that are co-owning this asset. So this is like a legal requirement. It's not that they are having a role in the application. Legally, you are, let's say, obliged to put all the institutions, for-profit and not-for-profit, that are co-owning the asset. So in the case that your asset is co-owned by the applicant institution and by another spin-off or by another for-profit institution, you for sure have to invite this as a co-owner of the asset institution. So yes.
Okay, thank you. So then we have another question from Elvira Martin. please.
Yes, good morning. Hello, everybody. Thanks for the presentation. I do have just two short questions. The first one, who's entitled to participate in the face-to-face meeting? Is it only the project leader, or can it be somebody else within the team? And the second question is whether you would be able to provide us with the grant agreement beforehand, with the standard grant agreement.
Okay. For the first question, the way it's structured, the face-to-face meeting, there's a 5-minute presentation that has to be performance compulsory, performed by the project leader. So we need that the project leader leading that proposal is the one defending it in front of the evaluation committee. But that person can come along with some other members from the institution or from the project team member. And those other members are entitled after the presentation to participate in the questions or to try to clarify questions that may come from the members of the evaluation committee. So the answer is yes, it has to be the project leader, but can come along with some other members that can also participate in the discussion after that. For the second question, so sorry, you were mentioning that. Sorry.
Yeah. My question was referring to the grant agreement itself,
Yes,
and I think it would be highly appreciated, at least from my side, if we would be able to have the grant agreement in advance.
Okay. So it's not available publicly in the website. It's true that when a project is selected, right after that it goes through a legal review with our legal department, and during that process that may take a few weeks or a bit less, then a template is available for the institution so that they can start like sharing it with their legal departments and making or proposing the modifications that are needed. If there's a really a need and it's properly justified, in some cases we can study the specific situation and we can make an exception, but it's not the rule in the program. So we usually wait until the project or the asset has been selected in the program, and then during the legal review, even if it takes a bit longer, we share it and then we try to help throughout providing guidance throughout the revision of that specific document.
So I do understand then that in the case we would be successfully invited to move forward after the face-to-face meeting, there would be a due diligence. Is that correct? A due diligence would take place, and eventually, in that case, afterwards, we would be able to have a copy of the grant agreement itself.
Exactly. So it's not a proper due diligence where we get into looking into the patents or the intellectual property or looking at other investors or other sources of funding. It's just a legal review just to make sure by our legal department, performed by our legal department, to make sure that the institution has all the documentation that we need to sign an agreement, a project agreement with your institution, that the legal representative of your institution, the person has the powers to sign the project agreement with us, and so on. So it's more linked to bureaucracy, more than linked to specific aspects of the asset and the development of the assets that have brought you to apply to this program.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
Thank you. So there's two more. Annabelle Sanz, please. Annabelle, yes.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to ask questions. My question is related to something that was brought up already by Marcin and Teresa Lloret regarding the 1% equity in the spin-offs. So what happens in this situation, or what are the options to manage situations in which a spin-off company would be set up during the program, but the institution that is actually the beneficiary of the grant is only a minor part of the share of the shareholders? So how can the institution impose this if the other shareholders would not want to have La Caixa with a 1% equity? Do we have the opportunity as beneficiaries to negotiate with La Caixa a return in another form? Or how do you manage these situations? What are the options to do that?
Yeah, Thank you, Annabelle, for your question. Yes, as you are saying, all spin-off companies that are constituted, that are incorporated within the framework of the program, has this rule that Caixa Capital Risk, not like Caixa Foundation itself, but Caixa Capital Risk is entitled to get a 1% of the share of the equity in the date of the constitution of the company. So if this is a great problem, maybe there is some room to negotiate with Caixa Capital Risk, but for sure, this will be highly extraordinary and this will be like a case by case. So in general, or just as a general basis, this is a rule of the call. So this transfer to Caixa Capital Risk of the 1% should be done.
Thank you. Clear.
So if I may add something, so there's a document that it's called engagement letter. So when one spin-off is incorporated in the framework of the program, the project will have to sign this engagement letter just to let us know that the company is incorporated. And it will be necessary that most of the shareholders, or we're studying it, maybe the case of a representative of the shareholders, sign that document. So that's something that it will be essential and crucial for our legal department to keep continuing providing our support to the project. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so we have another one from Adrian Posada. Adrian, are you there? No. Well, so next, Miguel Pons.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. I just had a technical question. In case I understand that the beneficiary institution is the one that owns the asset of the project. Now, if you have a consortium in which the beneficiary institution has the asset and it has another institution which is part of the consortium, could the group leader be not of the beneficiary institution, but the member of this other member of the consortium? Is that a possibility?
So in this case, you mean the co-ownership? If the co-ownership can be a member?
No. I imagine that the asset is owned only by one institution. Okay. And then this institution makes a consortium with another institution to participate in the project. Could the group leader be not a member of the institution that owns the asset, but a member of the cooperating institution? I mean, this happens when people move from one place to another. I mean, I think it's possible to one question that was answered before, but I just wanted to clarify this point.
That's not a problem at all. It's not an obstacle for the project to apply for the call.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so thank you. So I guess that Carlos Amor is not there. So no, Carlos Amor, no. Okay, so we can just raise the hand. So there's no more hands up. So we have some questions that has been in our chat now. And the first one probably from Adrian Posada. It seems they have some problems in the microphone. Is how do we know what stage the proposal is at? So we have been talking about this guideline that you can find in our documents. Probably this has been answered, but if you would like to add something, because it's a hot topic of the new program.
No, the answer is this. We strongly recommend everyone to go to these guidelines, to check all the recommendations that we are giving to select the stage, to auto-evaluate yourself, and also to go to the formulary, to the set of questions that we are asking. So if you feel unable, or if you feel not very good asking too many questions, maybe your project is from a previous stage. So this is just the general recommendation that we can deliver.
Mm-hmm. So and then if there's any standard form for a letter of support or recommendation. So as far as we know, you can use your own.
We don't provide a template for that. It's an optional document that so it can give an additional value to your proposal if you have them at your disposal. But there's not a a template that we can provide for that specific kind of letter.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so then we have some questions about training. So can any member of the team attend to the training or only the project leaders?
The project leader is, in the case of the stage 2, has to attend to the training compulsory, as we said before. But this training is open also for other people from the team. So if there are more team members that are interested into going into a training, they for sure can go to a training. Usually, the maximum number of people from one project that can attend the training is 3. So up to 3 people usually can attend the training.
Okay, thank you. So some questions about the partners. There's a question about if a private university can applicate to the grant. So for example, a US university.
Yes, of course, they can apply. But the only thing is that we need that beneficiary institution is based in Spain or Portugal. Then that specific institution can build a consortium with other partners outside Spain and Portugal, and that's not a problem at all. And we accept private institutions as beneficiary institutions, as we accept also public institutions. The point or the main element that marks the eligibility of one proposal or the other is that the institution is a non-profit institution. It doesn't matter if it's public, from the public sector, or it's private. That's the important point to be eligible for this current call.
Mm-hmm. Okay, there's been some questions about the co-owner of the asset. So it has already been said if a spin-off can be or not a co-owner of the asset or applicant. So I think it's pretty clear. But if you would like to add something about this, it's okay. So then there's a specific question on the TLR. It's something that we have been discussing a lot. If it's possible to include in the guidelines the expected TRL of at the end that the project can be funded in each stage.
Yes, I think that actually we have it. So in the guidelines, the last point is the TLR. So for stage 1, we say TLR between 1 and 2. For stage 2, we say TLR between 3 and 4. And for stage 3, we say more than 4, 5 or more. So this is basically the recommendation that we are doing, but I'm pretty sure that this is already in the guidelines.
Mm-hmm. Okay, in terms of if the project is successful, is the institution sharing IP with La Caixa Foundation? I think that the different mechanism has been explained, but this specific issue, sharing IP with us. So
that the institution won't be sharing any IP with La Caixa Foundation or with Caixa Capital Risk with a direct transfer. So the program is not intended for an IP transfer. So it's more a support project so that they can transfer the assets to other licensees or corporate companies and include other shareholders. But La Caixa Foundation is not one of them.
Okay, another one about the spin-off. You said there's a lot of questions on this regard, but it is required to create a startup at the end of the program.
No, it is not. So your plan to develop it could be that at the end to incorporate a spin-off, or it can be to license out, or it can be, I don't know, exploit the asset by yourself. So we don't project this, so you can present the valorization plan that you wish. So there is no need to incorporate a spin-off during the program.
Okay. So, and then regarding the budget, is it possible to fund the purchase of technology and equipment?
So with this regard, we are very flexible, and the answer is yes, we accept that. We have just a few restrictions, and they are listed in the rules of participation. For example, we don't accept overheads in stage 1 projects. We accept overheads and direct costs in stages 2 and 3. And for the rest of activities, as long as they are properly justified and they are linked with the development plan, evaluation plan that you are presenting, they are totally eligible.
Okay, and there's a question about the participation or collaboration with the FCT, the Portuguese government. They ask if they will finance the Portuguese projects approved in the call, or they will finance the best Portuguese projects not financed by the main call.
Okay, if I understood correctly, I think it's the latter. So basically what we are going to do is we are going to shortlist to go to the panel. Then all projects will be evaluated in the panel. We, as Alex said before, we hope to select 10 projects in the stage 1, 10 in the stage 2, and between 3 and 5 in the stage 3. And then the FCT is going to finance the first Portuguese project that is not selected within these 10, for example, in stage 1. So this will be one Portuguese project that goes into panels, but is not selected by the panelist of La Caixa Foundation.
Okay, so this would be all the questions we have received. Probably there are some really specific questions about your specific project that can be addressed. We would recommend you to write us by email if you have any specific question about your asset or your project. Said that, if there's no other questions, we say thank you for your interest to participate in this session. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You, bye.
Bye bye.